esto es charlas de Sádula, pero realmente esto es un que baje de los y lo vea súper mega especial porque hoy tenemos a una de las personas más importantes de, de- más importantes así en general, que es Robin Delos. ¿Quién es Robin Delos? Si necesitas una explicación de quién es Robin Delos a estas alturas, es que no estás en el chat correcto, no estás en el podcast correcto. En cualquier caso, si estás escuchando esto en el podcast, como sabéis, cuando hay una entrevista en inglés, lo mejor que podéis hacer es, primero, no tenerme en cuenta mi acento y segundo, iros a YouTube. Iros a YouTube porque esta misma entrada estará en YouTube y ahí vais a tener básicamente subtítulos. Robin habla muy bien, pero en cualquier caso nunca está de más para escucharle. Le he conseguido sacar unas cuantas cositas ricas, así que disfrutad del vídeo y si lo disfrutáis como una décima parte de lo que he disfrutado yo, estaréis disfrutándolo a tope. Ahí vamos. Well, so here we are. We are with Robin Delos, and it's like an incredible honor for me. Uh, we already know each other from 2 years ago in the SaddleCon, I think. I already have my T-shirt about
Yes. So,
the.
so really, really, Alvaro, this was just an opportunity for you to watch, to wear the T-shirt again, right? This is what
This
this
is
was all about.
This is for the not Spanish people who are looking. This is. Do you have a minute to talk about your Lord and Savior, Robin D. Laws? So, just like that's the proof of how much respect I have for your work, and I have grown like as a game designer, watching you and watching your games. So for me, it's truly an honor to have you here. This podcast is called Que baje de los y lo vea, which is translated to May God come down and see this. But Dios, God is the lows. It's like a pan, a terrible pan because I love this kind of terrible game with the letters. So it's an honor to have you here.
Super glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay, I want to. I don't know if you have looked to the to the Spanish version of Worldbreaker. So I'm going to share with you the pre-order page. You are looking at it right now, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, this is Worldbreaker. This is your the last book for for Pelgrane Press for Esoterrorist, and this is Skull Chronicles. It's written by me, so it's a very good book. And we are pre-ordering. We are open the pre-order for these two books, and everyone right now can enter to sadulans.es/esoterroristas and buy the two books. I want to talk with you about this book and about the story behind esoterrorism because I know that that was like a little bit of a challenge, like for Steve, I think, that said to you, "I want you to make a book with 20,000 words."
Yes.
Uh,
So Esoterrorist came about when Simon Rogers, the
Simon.
co-founder of Pelgrane Press and now co-owner of Pelgrane Press, uh, uh, decided after working with me on the Dying Earth role-playing game that he wanted a game that sort of tackled one of the main problems of uh, investigative role-playing and which is what happens when you have a skill that allows you to find information. You roll your skill and you fail. That's a notorious bottleneck in investigative gaming, especially at the time when no one had Gumshoe to borrow its main idea from. And I decided to make that a horror game because investigation and horror go together in the role-playing field because of Sandy Peterson's pioneering Call of Cthulhu. But to make it a modern game and to have a very simple premise where the question, why are people getting into this horror movie situation, is answered for you, and that you are modern day agents up against an occult conspiracy. So the setting was designed to bring the characters immediately into the story, be relatively simple and accessible for a modern horror setting, and to make them competent because it's all about investigation and making your way through the story. And so I came up with what I thought was a fun premise for that. But the other challenge, in addition to solving that rules problem, was, as you said, Simon asked me to do it in a really slim volume. Something that was only 20,000 words. And so once it came out, people really liked it. There was a good reaction. But almost universally, people said, the problem with this book is it's only 20,000 words. So we did an expanded second edition that has a lot more material and additional background and an extra campaign frame, and gave people more material to work with. And because the sort of the defining thing of Gumshoe is that adventures are challenging to write. You can improvise them if you're skilled, but most people need more to go on. And there's different ways of structuring the scenarios, but I think particularly for people who need scenarios, the structure used in Esoterrorists is the way to go. So we've had a lot of additional material, which is mostly scenarios. There's the Esoterror Fact book, which is a background book, but almost everything else, including Worldbreaker, is about scenarios, which showing you how to use the rule system, and also, having a scary, action-packed good time for your players as they investigate these terrible mysteries.
What was the main inspiration for the Ordo Veritatis? Because it feels like some sort of the smoking man from X-Files, like he is the Veritas, the Mr. Veritas. Is that their main inspiration?
There's definitely an X-Files inspiration to it. The big difference with the Ordo Veritatis compared to other horror settings is that I wanted to make sure that your group, your organization never betrays you, that they're just reliably the good guys, which makes them very different from the cigarette smoking man, who it turns out, surprise, surprise, implicated in the big conspiracy and is an ambiguous figure and is manipulating Mulder. And I wanted to get away from the cliche of your bosses are inevitably going to screw you over, especially in this, because there's already bad guys, and those are the Esoterrorists. And I thought it was interesting to spend more attention on the bad guys in a particular way of trying to bring the demons of the outer dark into the world by exploiting the sense of cognitive dissonance that even when Esoterrorists first came out was starting to be a big part of everyday life. And now, as the veil tears open, it's only gotten worse. So I wanted to focus on the bad guys, and also to make them not a typical world-spanning conspiracy that was so powerful that you couldn't do anything about them, because Mulder and Scully in the X-Files are completely overwhelmed by the scale of their enemies. That makes them interesting underdog characters for a TV show, but players tend to get demoralized really quickly when their enemies are pervasive and they don't know where to strike against them. So another idea of the Esoterists is they work independently in little cells. They all have an ideology and a method that they're following, but it's not a vast interconnected conspiracy, but rather it's a group of groups of people operating independently, meaning that in general, each scenario you defeat one Esoteric cell. And in Worldbreaker, that they start to come together and work together on a global scale to really start to realize their plans. And so here's where the background element that we referred to again and again through the rest of the line starts to come into play in a much bigger and more massive and more consequential way.
When you are reading Worldbreaker, it feels like some kind of closure of the line, so of some sort of it, because there is like a few red lines that's never crossed in the other books. Like for example, the no one have seen the membrane being ripped off, and that's like the beginning of the story. And for example, when you are playing the game and you realize you are reenacting the front page of the first book, and there's like a few hints of this is the final step. This is that's what that was intended by you, or it's like okay, this is another level, but I want to make more things about this.
Well, certainly, if you play it and all of the characters horribly fail and are killed in your version, that's the end, right?
Mhm.
But it's not intended to close the line or make make other esoteric things impossible. Whether it's so that your scenario book people can play it after they play Worldbreaker, or things that we do in the future. So it's been a while since there's been an English language as a terrorist book, but we're not ruling it out as a thing forever. This is not the official end, and certainly it does work as a big wrap up for any individual game moderator's final version of the game, but it's not it doesn't put a full stop to the esoterics.
Mhm. You have said that you are not intended that the Ordo Veritatis is the bad guys, but if you look at some of of the adventures, I don't want to make spoilers, but in a few of the published adventures, the Mr. Veritas it's the bad guy. It's like a crooked person, or you have more than one boss, or for saying it in some way. And for me, it's it's like the book is telling you the order that this is the good ones, but you can trust the book. So for me, do you have that another layer of that? And in the chronic in the Skillkill Chronicles, the campaign I'm still waiting, uh, it's based on one assumption that one Mr. Veritas has a lot of power and has his own agenda, and everything is like a lot of pieces that is coming down, and it's interacting with each others. And I think that's it's not like when you are comparing to X Files, you are saying that you can trust. Okay, you can do it. You can trust your bosses, but maybe they are not looking at the right things, and you need to that's something when you are looking. I don't remember the name in Spanish, in English, but the esoteric the esoteric fact book, no, the other one, I don't know, I don't remember the other book, it's written by Gareth, the manual, I don't remember. Okay, in that book, it says a lot of internal documents from the Ordo, and it seems that there is a lot of different way of in, understanding the outer dark. do you had that in mind when you start the game, or that was like he had his own agenda?
Right. So the main point that I was always making when other people were writing esoteric stuff is that everybody went, well, this is the one where the Ordo Veritatis goes bad and betrays you.
Mm,
And my position was always no, it's baked into the uh, premise that it never gets that far. That
mm,
being said, it is an organization of people. It's a bureaucratic organization. They've got a long history, and everybody who brushes up against the outer dark is changed by it and never for the better. So there definitely is the idea that lots of agents have to be taken out off the field and put in treatment forever. That people even working desk jobs, that it's a strain on their mental stability, and that therefore that people can be misguided and make
mm,
mistakes. And obviously, one of the as player characters, it's always a threat that you are going to go over to the dark side and throw in your lot with the demons and then wind up not being a player character anymore.
yeah.
So the idea individual people can be ground down by their contact with the membrane and the outer dark. They can lose their way. They can, as you suggest, have different agendas where they might think they're doing the right thing, but you discover that they're doing the wrong thing. But that they never out and out. The organization as a whole never out and out goes bad and
Mhm.
never out and out betrays the characters. So you could have a plot line, for example, which is a standard thing in the sort of techno thrillers that the more realistic side of the game is based on, where a department head turns against you and goes rogue, and that you maybe are framed or something. But the idea is that at the end, you would still be able to restore your status with the Ordo Veritatis and the organization itself. You might need to get rid of, the person who's uh, a mole, or you could easily have a mole in the organization for
Mhm.
sure. But the whole thing isn't going to uh, turn evil and betray you.
The book I was talking about was the Esoteric Summoning Guide. I
Oh,
didn't
right.
remember the name. In that particular book, it's said that one department who I don't remember exactly the name of the department, but it's implied that it convinces people to commit suicide. Like, okay, we don't, it's amazing. Like, do you have this department that is like a guideline of how the Ordo Veritatis is working in the day to day, and do you have that list of departments, or it's like, okay, I want it to be obscure so every game moderator can make his own Ordo Veritatis,
There,
or
there's no secret source material that has
Mhm,
everything all laid out. Everything that we came up with is in the books. And the idea is definitely to keep it amorphous, to give game moderators the opportunity to create a new thing. So if you need to create, a new department of uh, cyber technical specification in order for your scenario to work, I want you to be free to do that. And so we only tell you as much about the organization as is useful to you. And that's always a huge um, stumbling block in setting design, because you want to have enough information for people to go on, but not so much that they feel locked into something and they feel they have to honor a bunch of background material that doesn't actually fit what it is that they need to do in the adventure. So we suggest more than we fully explain. For one thing, the field agents, everything's on a need to know basis. So
mhm,
uh, they are not allowed to have the org chart, because what'll happen if every field agent has a copy of the org chart in their back pocket? Well, one of the esoterists will, you know, take them prisoner and steal that information. So it makes sense for the the structure of the organization to be, even more secret
mhm.
than a real world intelligence organization, because in the setting, it's even its existence is a secret, and the field agents only know so much. And if presumably later, if they get promoted up to desk jobs or get kicked upstairs to desk jobs, they learn more about the structure of the organization. But that, that's the severance version of exoterrorists, right? Where you're just working in an office, which sounds like more of a hill folk thing than an actual exoterrorist thing.
Um, when you are when you make the order veritatis that way, like, okay, I want to be abstract, obscure, secret, um, that's because of the particular way of doing this game. Like, okay, do you have to do it in 20,000 pages words, or it's something like, no, I want that to be that way because I want to make every game moderator, etc., etc.
It's both. It had to be a very simple concept in order for people to grasp, because the Order Veritatis in any given adventure, you are not in head office.
Mhm.
You're just talking to one representative who's different every time and just has all the information you need for the mystery that you're about to engage in. And so a lot of that background information is sort of fun to explore, but isn't central to any given adventure. For one thing, you don't want to feel like you know that you work for a bureaucratic organization, but as player characters, you're not bureaucrats. You're field officers. You're out doing things, making things happen, and you're also meant to be the protagonist. You're not meant to be checking back with head office all the time to ask you what to do next. You're expected to make decisions on your own and act on your own, and then file a report at the end, and of course cover everything up. And so part of that is to have the focus on what's really important, the action with the players doing what their characters are doing, and also to give you the freedom to sort of adjust things as you need to adjust them, while at the same time having a clear premise for every adventure, so that you don't spend the first half an hour figuring out why the characters are doing what they're doing.
Mhm. Okay, I want to take back to almost the beginning of the interview. You said that Gumshoe is intended to address the situation about you are investigating something and you fail the role, and that is going to block the game. That's something that a lot of people is taking like an offense to their ways of directing games, and I think that was from the very beginning of the game that you are confronting this situation. How when there is a lot of people right now in the in Sadulan chat from Telegram that is saying every every fucking day about the same. That's not correct. The game is never going to be blocked, but because of a failed role. How
Well,
do
let
you
me tell
explain it?
you,
Hmm,
having designed Gumshoe,
hmm,
when someone is at a game convention and they play a game where the game is completely blocked
hmm.
by missing a roll, uh, for some reason people come to tell me about it. So people come to complain about this problem all the time. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I already fixed this problem. Why are you complaining to me? But it absolutely happens all the time. What usually happens, though, and once again, people, there are sessions that just stop, where the whole campaign stops, or the adventure
In
stops.
fact, in the fourth book of the Yellow King, you use like a whole page just to explain this. But the
Yeah,
people is
right. So the reason that people are attached to the idea that this never happens when it patently does, and I get copious reports on it happening, is, first of all, everybody wants to think that they're very smart GMs and never, uh, uh, you know, make mistakes or slow things down. Another thing, though, is that they don't literally usually stop the adventure completely, but instead what they do is they spend 20 minutes coming up with some sort of improvised workaround to get you the information that you should have had in the first place. And my thesis is, why do that?
Mhm.
Why have a 20-minute workaround? That's 20 minutes of wasted time where you could have more story. And the other thing about giving the players the information when they use their abilities in the right situation is that it enables you to give them much more information. And so it's not about, I need this clue to move to this scene, and this clue to move to this scene, and this clue to move this scene, and therefore there's 4 clues in the whole mystery, but rather there's tons of information, and your job is to sort out what's going on and tell the difference between the things that are sort of relevant, that are interesting but not relevant, that are actually fully relevant to what's going on. And it becomes more like a real life investigation because police detectives, for example, or private investigators, their problem is rarely that they have nothing at all to go on. It's usually that they have a ton of information and they have to sift through it to see what's really important. And so this way, it's less about uh, rolling for a piece of information and you get it and then you move on to the next thing, to having to figure out an entire mystery, and the players get to do more deductive work than they would in a simpler mystery that can where the GM has to struggle to get them every bit of information, especially in a system where people's information skills are really low, which is often the case. So it's not just that it fixes that problem. That's what the brief was, to fix that problem. But by fixing that problem, it widens out the scope of an investigative scenario, and I think makes it much richer and more interesting. And because basically, I have run into the occasional person who goes, "Well, I really like to fail to get information, but
Mhm.
in general, it's not interesting to fail to get information because it's a null result. Nothing happens." You can sometimes think of ways to give them the information and also have them pay the price of failure, but that's very exhausting to think of for every single clue that you possibly want to present. And so why not focus the possibility of failure on things where it is interesting if you fail? For example, when you're running away from a blood demon, or you are trying to get your stalled plane to kick back in, or you are trying to sneak into the ritual magician's hideout in order to get his secret dossier. Those all have interesting fail points. So let's focus on those instead of spending 20 minutes on finding another way to alleviate an uninteresting failure.
Normally, when someone wants to um, tell about this problem and saying that Gumshoe is not working, there is like two similar they always do. The first one is, okay, when you don't put a rolling mechanic for the investigative abilities, you are making the game like a escape room. So it's like there is railroad. You have to go in that direction, and I'm pushing you right there. Uh, I'm I think that it's not a bad thing because every game system can be a railroad or not, because you have the Dracula dossier. It is not railroad at all. I don't think that's a bad thing, being pushed to the next deductive thing. But there is some people that loves the that workarounds, that I felt this, and that make me human, and I don't want to not have this kind of struggle. Do you think you're always saying that that's not interesting of being played, but some people likes it. So do you think that's normal. That's a good way of playing or something like that.
Um, well, it would be a valid criticism if the adventures were all linear. If the adventures literally led you from scene A to scene B to scene D to scene E, but they are that problem is addressed on a structural level by
Hmm.
the fact that there are core scenes and alternate scenes, so that you very often have a choice of which thing to investigate next. You have scenes that you can skip. You have scenes that you can pursue if you want to. And so there has to be lots of choice within a scenario for it to be satisfying. Um, but I think it's strange to identify failure to get information as an actual choice point, because that's not a choice point. Uh, that is, you have failed because your roll uh, uh, wasn't the number you needed. You didn't make a choice to fail. The dice chose to fail for you. And then the GM is making sure you get that clue in another way and that you get another shot to roll at it. That's the railroad, right? That's the escape room.
Yeah.
Is the GM is making sure that you get each piece of information and stay on track. And what Gumshoe does instead is it takes the decision point away from the dice and gives it to the players. So the decision point is not, do I succeed to get the book in this place? But I know that I can go here and look for a book, or I can go there and talk to the old sailor. And those things will have different results. And it's not because because the dice decided, it's because you decided. So I would argue that there people do have this cognitive dissonance around other games that they're loyal to, or a lot of players like failing because they enjoy screwing up. But failing is not making a choice. Failing is having a choice on post-dining.
Okay. The other way, some people are criticizing the Gumshoe system is the lack of realism. Realism, I don't know how to say it, but for example, if you are listening to true crime podcast, it's very, 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 very common. People that fail in real life, people fail in his own rolling abilities. Like for example, a police officer that didn't talk with this person 20 years ago, so now we have so when you are using the Gamsu way of doing this, you are forgetting about that experience. You are not going to have you are never going to have an officer, a police officer, doing things bad and doing some sort of obstacles to the investigation that it feels more real. I think it have a very valid point of view, but again, it's about this is interesting. It's interesting of playing that or not.
Right. So what they're saying is that the problem with this apple is that it's not an orange. Um, Real life
Okay.
investigation
Okay.
is uh, structured differently than uh, mysteries, where we expect there to be an answer and we expect the protagonists, because they are iconic heroes, to solve the problem. One of my very favorite films of all time, and my favorite true crime film, is Zodiac, David Fincher's Zodiac, which is absolutely about what you're talking about, is that uh, often real cases are just too complicated and weird, and that particular case is too complicated and weird for people to actually solve. And you're absolutely right that in real life, uh, uh, police do not generally have great solve rates for murders that don't involve family members. So any murder by a stranger is very difficult to solve in real life. But that is not what any mystery is about. A mystery, by definition, is about someone who solves mysteries. And it's not meant to be realistic in that sense. It is uh, uh, an aspirational experience in which you vicariously enjoy a uh, a fantasy of competence.
Mhm.
And so, yes, absolutely, characters in the esoterists are more competent and have a solvable mystery uh, than people in real life. But the esoterists, which I hasten to add, has demons in it, is not trying to emulate real life.
Mhm.
And uh, if I was going to do just a realistic police procedural, we do a police procedural game, Mutant City Blues, which adds mutant superpowers to police work. But even that doesn't emulate true crime. It emulates police procedural TV shows because, again, the fantasy of those shows is that they give us a closure that they don't. So if you, as a player, again, love to fail, love to be confused, would rather have a realistic experience where you don't figure out what's going on, and that makes you happy at the end. And I suppose when you get shot, you want to get sepsis and die. Or if you and you might want to roll realistically to see if you get a real disease at the end of every scenario. Stories of heroic characters solving mysteries should not be realistic, because if they were, they'd be disappointing unless they were Zodiac. But we already
Mhm.
have Zodiac, and I would not try to do the Zodiac role playing game because the whole point of it is it's an exercise in frustration. So if I was going to do Zodiac, I would do it as uh, as a drama system game or as a page turner scenario. We have our drama system one-to-one game called Page Turners. It would be very interesting to explore the world of realistic police failure in that context, because then it would be about the personal drama, not about solving the mystery. And you'd have to be super clear with players at the beginning that they're never going to solve the mystery, because otherwise they'll get very angry at you. And they'll go, well, even if they say, I want a realistic true crime scenario, if you gave it to them and it was Zodiac, they would hate you for it.
Okay. Uh, I think that I have heard you a lot of the times saying that Gumshoe is comeback agnostic. It's like you don't care if there is a lot of combat or very few times or something like that. Um, when you watch Night Black Agents, like it's a lot of combat. There was intended in the beginning that okay, you are maybe you can go that direction and you just need more points, or that was a surprise for you. How can it achieve that?
Um, it the amount of combat, it's not so much that it's agnostic as that it's setting dependent. So something that is based on the Bourne trilogy, as much as it is on vampires, has to have a lot of fighting and chasing in it, because that's what those movies are built on. The Yellow King role playing game, on the other hand, I wanted to focus much more on literary and psychological horror and reality horror. So the combat system in that is very abstracted. It's one role for each player, and then you resolve uh, uh, what happened. And so that's a huge range of different results. Swords of the Serpentine by Kevin Kalt also has a very elaborate uh, combat system, because it's swords and sorcery. And if you had a sword and sorcery game where your Conan-like character shows up and makes a single roll in combat, that would be very disappointing. Likewise, if your art students in Paris and Yellow King were having extended fights that took up most of a session, that would seem ridiculous too. And so it is true that the more fighting that a game expects, the more rules attention it will give to fighting. And that's true for, virtually every traditional tabletop role playing game spends most of its time on rules for combat. And if you have something with a lot of fighting in it, Gumshoe doesn't quite have the sort of rules. Obviously, not the same rules density as you're going to get in, Pathfinder or Shadowrun or something. But it definitely has to fit the amount of rules to the uh, genre you're using. But even then, I in the Esoterists, when
Mhm.
I introduced some more crunchy combat abilities, they were emulative in nature. So again, it wasn't like, well, how does an AR-15 really work in real life? But rather, uh, what happens in a movie when people talk about their AR-15? So there's an ability where you get a bonus by being able to describe your weapon in the same loving way that a Tom Clancy novel.
Mhm. You mentioned Sword of Serpentine. Uh, I love that game. It's like when I was reading it, it's like this is not going to work. This is too away from the Gamsu system, and I was not sure about it. It's like I don't know. This is going to be failed in some ways, but the way Kevin Cal sold that. It blew my mind. I think it's a very beautiful game, very very well adjusted, and that way of using investigate abilities to make better your combat abilities. I think it makes a whole level of the or whole new level of gaming. Um, did you look at it and say that was important? You had that feeling with that game, or this was like in the first time you said this is going to work? Okay, it was how was for you?
Well, until now, have been a freelancer and not the creative director of Pelgrane. So I did not have any sort of supervisory uh, input
Mhm.
on Swords of the Serpentine. And that's great because that allows other people to take this very simple structure that I started out with and go in radically different directions with it. One of the game lines we're going to launch is one called Gumshoe Labs, where where we have games where people go even further from the traditional Gumshoe way of doing things and
Gumshoe
demonstrate
Labs,
just
like a laboratory.
LABS, as in, we're testing things in labs. So there's designs coming that are even further from core Gumshoe
Mhm.
than sort of the Serpentine is. And I think that's great. And I think it really testifies to uh, the creativity of people who look at Gumshoe and figure out really wild out there things to do with it, and also to the flexibility of a rule system that had to start out being very simple to be part of a 20,000 word initial role playing game.
Can you expand something more about that Gumshoe Labs because I didn't know anything about it.
That's all I can tell you right now. We'll have more when there's an announcement to make.
Okay. What do you have like? Do you have regular Gamsu? Do you have Gamsu Quicksock? Do you have Gamsu one on one? And now you are working on another way of playing Gamsu that is without any game moderator, something like that.
Yes, when I get to turn back to writing tasks,
Mhm.
my next big Gumshoe task is a solo game.
Solo game. Solo game is like the game is going to make like their own history story, and you are like playing book. I don't know the name in English. Okay, it's
Yeah,
something like
I
that.
think for Gumshoe, it has to be that sort of more literary style of uh, something that you're making choices within the book that takes you to different scenes. There have been people who've in the community uh, content done things that are more, here's a random thing that happens, here's another random thing that happens. Well, first
Mm.
of all, they've done that already, so I shouldn't duplicate it. But also, I think the rich, interesting thing will be something that is more of a meta fiction that you wend your way through, and you can then write a journal to go along with it if you want, which is a big part of the solo game movement. But to have something that's flavored both with the Gumshoe style of investigation and with the different properties that we have associated with other gumshoe games.
And did you say that you are now creative director of Pelgrane Press? Can you say something about your new position or something like that?
Yeah, so after I didn't think this would happen, but it has. And the thing about spending decades making yourself indispensable to a company that does not, in fact, employ you, that eventually they'll insist on doing so. And so part of the issue is to future-proof Pelgrane against the fact that I turned 60 recently. Ken is about the same age. Rom Haynes is a little older, and Gar's like Gar and Kat are half a generation back. But we're particularly with Gumshoe, that it is so associated with me and Gar and Ken that that is both a blessing because we get to do things and we have a following, and that is very exciting. But also, we need to bring more people on in order to first of all do new things that we wouldn't think to do, but also just to still be there writing Gumshoe things when we retire or when night gods come to carry us off, whichever happens first. And so my immediate task is to have books move through the pipeline faster because Pelgrane has in the past sort of announced things that stay in development for years and years and years and don't move along through to publication. So my job is to make books come out faster. And the reason I'm able to do that is that Kat for years has done sort of 3.5 jobs at Pelgrane as she's the top of the org chart, but she's also another 3 or 4 other spots on the org chart. And so my job is to take a chunk of work off of her plate and by being able to specialize in it, move it along faster, look for ways to do things in parallel with each other that have previously been done in a linear fashion and make things come out faster. That's the first goal. And the longer term goal, once things are rolling more reliably, or in fact, even now, because we're working with other people now, is to train other people to write Gumshoe, because it turns out to be kind of a tricky thing, a thing that I underestimate how hard it is, because of course, I'm the one who thought it up. So it makes sense to me. But there are sort of typical game master tricks that you can't get away with in Gumshoe because the system empowers players a lot to take action and do things. So there's certain things you can't have happen. And also it has to follow a certain format. It has to make sense so that other people can write it. And there's stuff that people have to learn and take on board in order to do it well. The amazing thing about dungeon crawling for Dungeons and Dragons and other similar games is that those adventures are very easy to create. You just have, here's a room, here's another room, here's another room, here's what's in that room. And at the end of the hallway, there's the big boss fight. But Gumshoe demands a rigorous logic about what has happened that you're investigating and what path you can follow to conduct the investigation. And as I alluded to earlier, it's not just one path, it has to be many paths so that the players have choice as they move through the investigation. And it all has to make logical sense and fit the genre. And that's something that requires a certain amount of training. And so we have some really fabulous people who we've brought on board so far. Ruth Tillman, it's unfortunate that she has a real job and only does the occasional
I think I lost you.
everything about Gumshoe and didn't need someone else who's doing really great Gumshoe adventures. And so we're looking to Sarah Saltiel. She did couple of the adventures in the Black Star Magic book. She did the Free RPG Day Yellow King book. And she's got more stuff coming out. And so The long-term thing is to, find and bring along new Gumshoe writers. The trick about that is you can't just, people who are brilliant designers of other games may or may not uh, think like a Gumshoe writer. And so we sort of have to wait for people to discover Gumshoe and then come toward us. Uh, so, uh, uh, so those are my two main goals in sort of taking over the creative side at Pelgrane. I don't do the 13th age side of stuff. That's still Rob Hainsow's purview, but the Gumshoe stuff in particular, and also some of the story stuff, are my main concerns.
I had like a brief problem with my connection, and I don't know if everything you said it's going to be recorded. But I hope that it's going to be everything okay. I couldn't listen to everything you said, but I know you talk about Ruth Silman and Sarah Saltil too.
I'll type her name in the chat for you so you.
Okay. And so that okay, that authors that writers are going to be on this Gumshoe Labs situation, or is like more okay? And now you are working right, so I want you to make more stuff for the games we have right now.
Um, Both. Some people will be
Hmm.
doing if you pitch a game that I think is exciting, that is really far off of the mainstream Gumshoe, I'll put it in the Gumshoe Labs uh, category. And there's an unannounced project that fits that bill. Um,
Hmm.
so it's not so much of go and give me a Gumshoe Labs book as you've pitched me this game. Oh, this seems like a Gumshoe Labs game because it's such a big departure from the norm.
Hmm. Okay. When editing a lot of stuff for Shadowlands with Gumshoe writers, and it's very very common for not rookie but even experienced writers that they don't know the structure of a Gamsu game. They have a lot of problems with it. Like, okay, this is an antagonist reaction. This is an alternative. When do you make it? I think when you are looking at the Yellow King source book, that it's that have a little bit different way of talking about the type of things. I think it's clear, it's more clear. You for the writer that is starting with Gamsu, I think it's easier to understand it. And but when you look at, for example, in True Confidential, when you are looking to that structure in True Confidential is like a lot of things with arrows from one to each other's. It's a dungeon crawling. It's the same. There's rooms and there is passage from one room to the next one, and it's almost the same. For me, when someone is not getting it, is frustrating because it's there. It's obvious. So I understand your feeling because for me it's very hard to explain when when a scene is have to be that scene or another. It's it's there. I don't know. I don't know if you have the same problem.
Um, if I was to, if someone's listening to this and thinks they might want to write a Gumshoe adventure, a tip I would give them is you have probably been trained by reading and writing other adventures to have a lot of information that is provided to the GM owner. And that is a problem in a Gumshoe adventure because if you're presenting information, you have to find a way to get that information to the players.
Mhm.
There's often big chunks of exposition in scenarios for other games that just sort of provide it uh, ideally so that the GM can do things with it. But a lot of the time, just because the writer has been inspired by a whole bunch of cause and effect. But the question, how do I get this information to the players, hasn't quite registered. And
Mhm.
so when you see a big chunk of info in a scenario you're writing for Gumshoe, put it in the form of a scene where the players can get the information. You may also think, oh, it's a mystery. The thing about a mystery is you have to withhold information from the players and keep it out of their hands. Otherwise, they'll solve the mystery. Well, the opposite is true. The difficulty in Gumshoe is getting information to the players so that they understand what's going on. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of people first coming to Gumshoe are taken aback by the idea that, for example, if someone has an interpersonal ability, that is a powerful tool to get information. If you have the interrogation skill and you have someone who is, imprisoned or who you captured or whatever, where the interrogation skill applies, the players expect to be able to get information from them. And it's not unrealistic to have the character finally break and give the information they don't want to give. Rather, it's incredibly disappointing and frustrating to the players if they're hitting the button that they expect to be able to hit, that they put on their character sheet in order to hit and don't get anything. And so you have to uh, plot without cheating by giving the players have lots of information and not keeping secrets from them and making sure that the information that you provide to the GM gets to the players. And that is a note that I give to beginning Gumshoe writers a lot, is just how does this info get to the players? And so
Mhm.
that's the main thing. Have information. It doesn't spoil things for the players to know what's going on. The players knowing what's going on is the point of Gumshoe. And also, if you're worried about the players knowing what's going on too early and solving the problem too early, remember that players get confused. They will supply their own confusion. They do not need the scenario to supply confusion. They need the scenario to supply clarity, along with excitement. And it should be difficult to get information. You should feel that you put yourself in danger or had to work, right? If you're interrogating somebody, that means you had to capture them or you had to convince a police officer to let you in to talk to them. Both of those things are difficult and can be suspenseful. But at the end of the day, it's about uh, getting information to the players, not withholding it from them.
Okay. Um, I don't know. Okay, so I don't know anything else to question you. So you are do you have any date to offer us about, for example, the next Trail of Chulu game when it's going to hit the bookshelf, or the Casilda song that is the next Yellow King book from you? Do you have any?
So we're going to try, as another of my jobs as creative director is to eventually be able to provide more predictable release dates.
Hmm.
At this point, uh, the predictable release dates are late summer for uh, Paragon Blade, which is the
Hmm.
GAR's fantasy Gumshoe one-to-one book, and Page Turners, which is the version of drama system for one player and one game moderator. Uh, Fall will be 13th Age, and the rest of the uh, products in the stream we have hopes for, but we haven't official release dates.
Okay. Um, so, okay. Um, when you said about the the
Oh,
drama system
Page.
for turn pages, okay, that's when I read about it in the Pelgrane Press website. I thought that it was going to be the next iteration of Gumshoe, the one you said about with no the director, game director. But you are saying that it's drama system
Yes, that's a
for.
drama system game. So that is all about interpersonal interaction
Mhm,
and not about solving mysteries. So the solo Gumshoe thing is has not been written,
mhm.
whereas Page Turners is in layout and going to be out in a few months.
Okay, so and it's going to be released for in Creative Commons like the other like all the other things from the other from Hill Folk and other stuff.
Sorry, I didn't hear your question.
The Hill Folk, when you make the Kickstarter campaign, you liberated or
Oh,
released as a Creative Commons the game system. You are going to do the same with this one-on-one iteration?
um, you know what? We haven't thought about that yet.
Mhm.
So maybe we'll make it a bonus in some sort of upcoming Kickstarter. It would certainly be easy enough to do, and I'd love to see it done. So it's not that we don't want to do it, but that it had not occurred to us to do it.
Mhm. And the last question, well, I have two questions more. The first one is when you and Ken and Gar and Kat went to Saducon, I I was playing with Gareth I don't remember the name, the Hobbits the Hobbits game. I don't remember the name of the game.
Yes. Well, it has a new name now. We haven't announced the new name
Mhm.
because we're still uh, Gar still wants to come up with might want a different. If Gar comes up with a different title that
Friends
I like
Out.
better than the title
Friends
we
Out
have,
was the
uh,
first.
yeah. So that game is we haven't officially announced that, but yes, we're doing that.
Well, there was like an article a few months
Well, in
ago
that case,
about
I
it.
guess we have announced it.
Yes, and also when we are, I was talking with Gar for the Terraforming Mars role-playing game, and I actually asked him about it, and you don't have any release date for now, right?
He's still writing them.
He's writing it. Okay. And the last
So
question.
basically, when I saw it, I asked him to make it bigger, and
Yes.
I want to make a bigger deal of it because it's an obvious no-brainer thing that people will, uh, you know, a uh, uh, halfling characters by Gar solving mysteries. People will love that game. I played the game. I've read the game. I know it's great. I know people love it. And the initial plan was just to do it as a little small book. And so one of my first things as creative director was saying, no, this should be a proper full size
Mhm.
Gumshoe core book with an adventure anthology. So uh,
I agree. I agree. I love the game. I was like weeks from the game was thinking about the game like oh my god this is amazing. It was hilarious, and I think it deserves a proper book.
Yeah, and it'll give us a nice uh, uh, contrast to Swords of the Serpentine. So that's
Mhm.
a fantasy game with a very highly developed, elaborate version of Gumshoe. This, of course, is a very simple, accessible version of Gumshoe. I think this will be a great way to get new players and
Mhm.
younger players. You can even run it for kids, um, and it's got murder in it, but kids love murder, right? Um,
Yes.
so yeah, we're definitely doing that. I think, and I want to make a big deal of it, and I think it's going to be great.
Okay. And the last question. Which is your favorite Gumshoe iteration?
Uh,
It's a
I don't have a
difficult one.
favorite because they each do what they're supposed to do,
Hmm.
and the whole point is to have a variety of different things. The one that I've spent the most time thinking about recently, of course, is Yellow King, which is my most recent uh, core book, especially with working on Casilda's song, which is as big as the original set of books.
Mhm.
And I think that has a lot of room to still add more things to, that has so much potential. So it's the one that I'm currently still most engaged with. But there's the whole point is to have a gumshoe for every situation and every possible flavor of investigative play. So they're all my favorites, of course. You knew I was going to say they're all my favorites.
It's your kids. You can
Yes,
choose only one.
yes. Or some of
Okay.
them are my nephews and nieces, but still.
Okay. Robin, thank you very much for being here. Again, this is a pleasure for me. And I don't know if you want to say something more, some announcement.
Well, I'll just say that it's always a pleasure to talk to a disciple. So go forth, spread the gospel responsibly. And I'd just like to thank everyone for listening as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So goodbye, Robin, and please, everyone listening, buy the book. It's the amazing book. So,
Thank you so
okay,
much. Take care.
bye.